Good evening everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone here to the Cadillac Planning Commission meeting here for October 26, 2015. That's why I called this to order. Okay. If you have a cell phone on, if you could please turn it off, please, so we don't disrupt the videotaping. There's a reason. And then if everyone could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with roll call, please. Filkins.
Here.
Champlin. Here. Van Lente. Smith. Peterson.
Yes.
Schichtel. Here. Gregg. Here. Fent. Here. Putzman. Here. 2 down. Thank you. If everyone had a chance to review the September 28th, 2015 meeting minutes, looking for an approval for those.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Yes. Second it. Filkins / seconded Champlin. Okay. The roll call, please. Gregg?
Yes.
Smith? Schichtel?
Yes.
Champlin?
Yes.
Van Lente? Fent?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Filkins?
Yes.
Putzman? Yes. Thank you, Mike. Done. And we kind of have 2 agendas, so approval of the agendas here again for October 26, 2015. They're kind of all the same, but we just have 2 little things of them is all, but it's all the same, really. Motion?
So moved.
Fent, seconded by Gregg?
Motion by Gregg?
Yep. Whoever. Please. Okay. Fent?
Yes.
Filkins?
Yes.
Champlin?
Yes.
Schichtel?
Yes.
Smith? Peterson?
Yes.
Van Lente? Gregg?
Yes.
Putzman? Yes. There kind of being no old business, so we'll move right into new business. For those of you who might be here from last month's discussions here, for a special land use permit at 1138 Burlingame Street, the applicant has withdrawn his request for that to move forward. Okay. Next on our list for new business, we have a request from Mr. Timothy and Susan Nags of 134 Petrie Road to approve a property line / land transfer, commonly referred to as a lot split, involving properties located at 134 Petrie Road and 224 Petrie Road. Having read this, I'll turn this over to staff right now.
I'll be the one handling this.
Okay.
I prepared the staff report for all of you. I basically have a 1-slide PowerPoint for you, if that's okay. Basically, what you're looking at is the Van Alsts are going to be moving. The neighbors, the Nags, for years they've known about this odd quirk in the lot line. These are platted lots. Land division, if, for example, the Van Alsts selling a small portion here to the Nags, if these were not platted lots, as long as they met the minimum lot size, the setbacks for side yard, front yard, that's something I personally would just approve. But the Code of Ordinances clearly states that if you're doing this type of a lot split sale, I've referred to it, I've used a different term, but actually I was instructed to use at a recent seminar. Essentially, because these are platted, it needs approval. A simple sale of a portion of it needs approval here, or I should say a recommendation to council. That's what it needs. So essentially what they've done, they are not creating any new properties at all. It is not a land division because no new properties are being created. They're basically selling a small portion here, the Van Alts, to the Nags. The picture of this, the GIS that you have, that was included in your packet, you'll see it's kind of slanted. The proposed sale is slanted slightly, and that's why on yours and on this I put these blue lines. These are actually where the water lines connect from the city sewer that runs under the street to the residences. So the water line that runs to the Van Alts actually comes across here. So that more or less, along with the driveway, explains why you see it not being like this, but at the very end like this. So essentially, it's taking a slight amount of property away from the Van Alts, selling it, adding it to the Nags property. Both well exceed the R1 minimum lot size of 12,500 feet. It does not in any way change. None of the setbacks are, they're all there. They're all there. Again, it's a splitting addition of land to the Nags, taking a little bit away from the Van Alts, and getting this done prior to a home sale here so that, you know, the Nags and the Van Alts have known each other for many, many years. So that's kind of the timing of this whole thing, is I think Tim Nags, I believe I'm right on that. So essentially, this is something that needs a recommendation, if you don't have a problem with it, you know, to City Council. And as I put in the report, you know, it certainly, as far as when we look at effects, it doesn't have any of the effects of, you know, impairing public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of the city. It affects nobody except the two property owners that abut each other. I believe that's it in a nutshell, unless you have any questions for me, and if you don't, then if you have any questions for Tim Nags.
Okay. Any questions for Mike this evening? The survey shows that sliver nicely, also.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when I saw what they did, I first kind of looked at how it jogged at the end, and when I saw where the water line runs from there to the Van Alts, then it made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's not here, it's here. So, okay.
Questions? No?
No.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Nags? You want his, any variation thereof, or not needed? Anybody have questions of Tim, or are we okay with what we've been presented? Okay?
Okay with that?
Perfect. Entertain a motion, recommendation to City Council, by the way.
I'll make a motion to recommend that we approve the land transfer. Second.
Who said second? Randy?
Bob.
Bob, okay.
Second from Bob?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Do a quick vote.
Yes.
Schichtel?
Yes.
Fent?
Yes.
Smith? Filkins?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Van Lente? Champlin?
Yes.
Gregg?
Yes.
Putman?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
We're all set, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nags.
Now, it's too bad that Ed wasn't here, because it would have gone a little different if Ed was here. I know Ed really well. We'd make him sweat a little bit.
My boss was going to be here. Had I known my boss was going to be here, I would have provided a longer slide presentation.
We would have sweated Ed a little bit. You got to do that.
These are, all right, actually I got a C on this one, and I don't on this one, all right.
So we're good?
November 16th.
I knew I was missing something. Okay, next we have in front of us a proposed amendment to the City of Cadillac zoning ordinance, which would add a mixed plan unit development zoning district. Apparently we're going to discuss and set a public hearing date on that. Now, having read that, I will go back to staff once again.
Yes, as we left the last Planning Commission meeting with the approval of the master plan. One of the very last changes we made on the master plan was to spell out exactly what would be needed in terms of moving forward with the zoning ordinance. And moving forward with that piece, it was very clear that the approval process and the rezoning process would be under a planned unit development. There was concern that not only this board but the council both have a role in looking at the design parameters, that we retain some ability to make sure that adjoining residents around the development were protected in the way that we move forward and so forth. And with that very much in the forefront of our minds, Mike Homier drafted some language. I've also been assisting him on some of the design parameters of building material and setbacks and so forth, and together we've brought together this document. Since Mike was the primary drafter, I think I'll let him make some comments on what some of the rationale was behind his overall design.
Hi. Good evening.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Long time no see, so we know it was important.
Well, I talked to John about coming to the meeting tonight in case the members had any questions about how this is set up. I'll just sort of describe the framework in a nutshell.
Okay.
We took a lot of the language that we had talked to the Planning Commission about when the Planning Commission was considering amendments to the master plan, and we've incorporated a lot of those and some others in this proposed zoning ordinance. How it's basically set up is to allow uses that you would find in a mixed-use development. So, for example, the permissible uses in this district would include all of those residential uses, office uses, commercial uses, and your tourist district uses in this one mixed-use district. It does not include any industrial uses and would not include specifically by name any adult-oriented businesses like adult bookstores or theaters. So that's sort of the concept. From there, it would require, as part of this, a rezoning to this district. And in conjunction with that, there are minimum design requirements, setback requirements. Development agreement would come out of this, but it would go through the rezoning process. So both the rezoning process and what we refer to as the sketch plan and then final site plan, those would occur concurrently so that it would go through really as one package of documents. We haven't talked yet about the final approval, but we anticipate that the final approval of that final plan would then lead to the rezoning of the property. So when you go through the sketch plan review and approval process, that's sort of an indication then to the applicant that this is going to be what's going to be built there. There may be some minor modifications as part of the final plan, but the bulk of that review is going to be on the sketch plan saying, okay, this is how it's going to look, this is the phasing we anticipate, and once you get through that plan, if we get through that plan, then it's an indication to the developer, okay, now go do your final plan, which are construction type documents that will be reviewed and approved if they are in substantial compliance with those. Once that happens, then Planning Commission obviously is going to make a recommendation to the zoning issue to the City Council. City Council would approve then both the rezoning of that as well as the final plans of approval. So that's sort of in a nutshell the process. I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to look through here. There are some tweaks that will likely have to be made. John and I were talking about this on Friday. There is a provision. We provide for landscape buffers all around the property, and there is a provision in there that says that defines what a landscape buffer is. But that the way it's drafted right now, that landscape buffer would actually not allow ingress and egress to the site, which will be problematic.
Just a little.
Yeah, so there are little tweaks here and there that will likely have to occur. I picked up on that on Friday, so things here and there that will obviously be discussed and debated by the Planning Commission, so we can work our way through that. The most important thing, obviously, is to set a public hearing for those for the proposed amendment, and then we can sort of, if the Planning Commission wants to talk about these tonight, we can do that tonight, or if you want to talk about it at the public hearing and have an opportunity to review it between now and then, we can do it that way too.
We're always good.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's a lot of...
Oh, yeah, I had to keep going back on some of your stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of material in here, and it's meant to be comprehensive. I mean, it is its own zoning district, although this zoning district, and one of the things that, we have to sort of take a shot at in terms of how the Planning Commission wants it structured. So even though what's really driving this is the changes to the master plan, and in particular, as everybody knows, in the near term, the proposed Cadillac Junction development, we drafted this ordinance more broadly than that in its application, so that it can be used in other places for the city. The only limiting factor right now is that the minimum area required is 20 acres. So I have been involved with planned unit developments that have the same type of minimum area restriction, but I've also had those where there's an opportunity for the Planning Commission to say, okay, minimum generally is going to be 20 acres, but we will also consider reduced acreage if there are reasons compelling that. So, for instance, the topography of the site would necessitate lesser of an area than is otherwise required. Or you could simply say we're going to allow a mixed plan unit development on any parcel, no matter how big. And that may work too in some instances where you may be combining lower level, say, commercial with upper level residential on one site. So that may present those opportunities too. I only point that out to give you something to think about and consider as you go through this process. But it is meant to be comprehensive, and I think gets you. We tried to draft this so that it's both comprehensive and yet easy to apply. And hopefully we've achieved that. Like I said, there may be tweaks here and there that will have to occur, but hopefully we'll get to the right place.
Wonderful. How big is that area out there, since you brought up the acreage, but I don't know if that's come up during our thing as well, but...
How many? 147.
Okay.
So...
I knew it was bigger than 20. But.
Yes, I knew it was bigger than 20 as well. So, that's one, obviously if you scale down the acreage, it may be used more than just, those limited parcels that may be over 20 acres. That could be a good thing. We haven't really, at least John and I really haven't thought about or talked about, how many parcels this might apply to. Obviously, when you're dealing with mixed uses, you want to have enough room to buffer those uses in between, but it may present an opportunity for the city to use it more broadly if it wants by simply reducing the acreage amount. It just depends on each municipality. Like I said, I've got clients who, they don't require any minimum acreage, and I've got some who require 20.
And it's really written, too, to allow a lot of flexibility, both on the part of the Planning Commission, City Council, and the developer to have some back and forth. While we do have some very specific design guidelines, there's room in there to back down from those, but also to increase from there. As we took kind of an average point and said, well, there might be some real value in lowering the standards in some cases, in some cases increasing the standard. One of the places I like to lower the standard sometimes when it can be shown as appropriate is not having way too much parking on a site. That does nothing but cost the developer a lot of money, and it creates a lot more runoff than we need, and doesn't allow enough density to make full and best use of the property. So I think you'll find that's written in there as well.
Oh, I found all that. Yeah, it was, like I say, I had to keep going back and forth to how you referenced it. But
I think we took into account reasonable buffers along major thoroughfares, and we really sat and thought about different combinations of how different uses abutted each other and tried to get the setbacks, not only in terms of the building setback from the lot line, but also required landscape buffer to soften those uses along the various potential there was to be next to a state highway or next to another residential development. And so we took into account all those kinds of arrangements and tried to set the standards in concert with those existing conditions, and also to write it so it would apply to other sites as well.
no, I thought it was well done. It just took me some time to get through it, but you guys want to discuss anything, or do you have, I don't know if everybody got everything. I printed my stuff off, so I was able to review it, but unless you just got it, you may not have gotten very far on it, so.
I think I'd be interested in discussing that after we've had a hearing, and then discuss it between ourselves and see what the public has to say also.
Question, will this go out to the folks that are affected first by this new addition? To the...
Yeah, part of the agenda tonight is to set the public hearing. If you set that public hearing for your next planning commission meeting, we would go ahead and issue the public notice that would go out to people within 300 feet of any portion of the boundary of the PUD district.
Okay.
Let me just correct that. So because this is a text amendment, there is no specific 300 feet notice that's required.
Well, that's what I wondered here a little.
However, that doesn't mean you can't provide it. So, if the city determines that, it wants to provide notice to anybody in particular, you have the right to do that. But this is not rezoning the property.
True.
This is simply putting in place a zoning district that somebody can apply to rezone property for.
So I guess part of my thought on this is right, the folks that will probably be affected by this first are outside of the city, was the reason for my question. So we could make that a request?
Absolutely, you can provide notice to whomever you'd like to.
Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty. And then they would be able to just view this online, right, without you having to send out all this, however many pages I printed.
Yeah, I presume the city can easily post this on their website. That's right.
Okay. All right. Anybody, any questions? Oh, Mr. Nagg, sorry. I'm not looking up.
So you're really not...
Well, I'm supposed to bother you to come forwards and state your name at the podium, sir, and and write down your name and address if there's a piece of paper and pen there.
It's a question.
I know, but...
Got it.
I know.
So, what we're talking about is adding the ability to have a plan, or putting a mixed-use planned unit development language. You're not identifying any property for that.
No.
All you're doing is putting language into the ordinance to allow for.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's some people that will possibly be affected by that, yeah.
Well, it's the entire city. It could happen anywhere in the city.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I guess we're just making sure some of the...
It could happen across the street from me.
It could.
There's hundreds of acres over there that's in the city.
Wow.
Water.
A lake.
Water.
Hundreds.
No, to the south.
Oh. Wow.
Right?
We're gonna go into,
Yes, there is.
houseboats out there, year-round, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, gang, what do you wanna do?
I just got it today, so I
Right,
didn't
so
have a chance.
didn't have a chance to read it. Okay.
I skimmed through it, but I haven't had a chance to read it, really.
Okay, so obviously we don't want to hang out and discuss much. Okay. Having done that, then can this just be at next meeting, or you need us to tell you that?
No, the only thing that I would...
Or a special one?
No, the next meeting is fine. The only thing that I would recommend is that when you have an opportunity to review it, if there's a provision that you find particularly distasteful or do not like or want to see it revised, if you could provide those comments to John prior to the meeting, just individually. That way it gives us an idea of what may be issues for you prior even to then the public hearing, and might aid in revising or addressing those issues at that time.
Agreed. That'd be good, and then we're not spinning our wheels doing that.
I have one question. The prohibited materials, why would wood siding be prohibited?
Good question.
I mean, I was at Jay's this weekend, and they got the whole building, the outside of it is wood, and it's beautiful.
So we put that in there really as a placeholder for materials that, at least in terms of commercial construction, that we likely would not see in any type of commercial type development. Now, that's different as opposed to obviously the residential.
Okay.
Whether the whole point of those materials really were to make sure that, one, the appearance was at least as far as we can do in terms of material, long-lasting, weather-resistant, and would provide for good upkeep over the long term. So we have not settled on that list of materials, either good, bad, or otherwise, except to say that, you know, the concrete or masonry stuff is going to last a long time.
Would this list be up to the board anyway to maybe change some of the verbiage in it?
Absolutely. Yeah, everything in this ordinance you will eventually have to pass in terms of a recommendation.
Okay.
So, good, bad, or otherwise.
Okay.
I like Bob's idea of holding the public hearing next month, and then the next month, having a deliberation with the planning commission, assuming that...
So you're looking at kicking that out 2 meetings, based on the, if I interpreted you right?
All right. I mean, that gives us a little more time to review it. And
Is that an okay option, staff,
Yes.
based on what Mr. Gregg's presenting?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it certainly depends on your comfort level. There's nothing that prohibits you from making a recommendation after you hear from the public and you have the ability to discuss it.
Okay.
There's nothing either that prevents you from waiting till the next meeting to do it as well.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
I think it all depends on, once you've had an opportunity to take a look at it, what your comfort level is with it. You may read it and say, this is the best thing ever. And then you might read it and say, oh boy, this needs a lot of work.
Where did he come up with these? Okay. All right, I guess at this time, you guys probably need a motion on our date, which by the calendar would be the 23rd of November. If everybody's good with that. You're going through your memory bank. Is that a good meeting date? Yes?
that is it.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I'll be gone in December.
Oh,
I know that for a fact.
it's okay. Everybody good with that meeting day, at our next meeting, 23rd, to have public hearing?
What's the date?
The 23rd, our next meeting, Bob.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Next.
Either that or the 30th, either one.
Sounds good.
We do the 23rd, don't we? someone?
Yes.
Okay.
Just in case people are traveling for the holiday. Yeah, when's Thanksgiving? 26th.
Always on a
Thanksgiving is
Thursday.
26th.
Right, so we should be good. Okay. Do you need that on roll call for that or anything, gentlemen?
Yes, I think so.
Sure.
So, yeah, so the motion would be to set a public hearing November 23rd on the proposed ordinance amending the zoning ordinance to add a mixed planned unit development zoning district.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Champlin and Mr. Fent.
I will take a roll call on this. Schickdale.
Yes.
Fent.
Yes.
Smith. Filkins.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Van Lente. Champlin.
Yes.
Gregg.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes.
The
Thank-
30th, or the 23rd is the date at 7 PM for the public hearing.
Yes, thank you. Okay, tabled items there being none. Any board member comments this evening? That being a no, moving right on. There was also in our, in your packet or online anyway, communication, a letter received from the City of Rockford City Manager in support of the Coochie Builder developer. Thought it was a nice and to the point letter. And he had nothing negative to say, which was reassuring. That's good. Any comments from staff pertaining to the letter, or? Okay.
Not to the letter, just going back to the public hearing, we talked earlier about whether anybody on the commission would like to request how the public hearing gets noticed.
Oh, we didn't add that.
Being that it's a general amendment, it would just go out in the paper and not go out to specific people. If you wanted to go out to specific people, then you would request that.
Good point. What do you guys think? Sorry, I skipped over top. Just a general, I think, if they read the paper, then they'll know that we're just discussing stuff, but it's really not pointing the finger at anything specific, so, you okay with this? You're looking, yeah?
They'll be here.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, but they can just get it in the paper, not a special notice. Okay,
It'll be on the city website also.
okay. Good. Sorry, thanks for that, John. Went right over top of that. Okay, back to my communication. Is there anyone in the audience that has comment, because your public comment is coming up right now, sir? Oh.
If I could, hi. I'm Jim Vanderlawn from Terry D., and I appreciate you setting a public hearing for the PUD, and I guess I didn't realize it was going to be on the agenda or whatever in the city of Rockford. What I came for was to kind of inform the board that we're going to be doing a little housekeeping out on our site. I don't know if you've been by, but we've got an excavator there and stuff. We had an excavation company wanting to get a little more work in at the end of the year. And we've got about 60, 70 stumps we want to remove. We want to take care of the trash piles around and a little cleanup, a little housekeeping, do a little leveling of the ground there, so it's just a little bit more attractive. And we just wanted to make sure that we're not being presumptuous on the PUD or on our zoning request or anything like that. We're just kind of doing some cleanup. So we didn't want you to be caught off guard or anything. So that's the purpose of me coming tonight. So
Perfect.
And if you have some problems with that, I guess please let me know. But we just didn't want to start working and everybody get excited, and let you know what we're doing.
We will.
Yeah, I know that, but at least you'll know what to answer them and stuff like that.
Appreciate that, Jim.
Yeah, so. And I appreciate the comments on the wood siding. Sporting goods stores are on the, I appreciate that. I didn't catch it, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll mark you down as a no.
No.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Any other public comment this evening on, because? Okay, very good. Other business, there being none, and if no one minds, we're done. Thank you.